better camera than our school.
Okay. We've elected to show you how to use the cheap tool first. I like this because if you're starting out and you're going to do brake lines or you're buying a tool and you don't own a whole lot of tools, you probably don't want to spend $400 on a kit to flare brake lines, but $40 is reasonable. And these kits do range anywhere from probably $25 all the way up to $100, and they will do the job. So we have our kit, and the first thing I need to do is mount my line in this fixture. The fixture has two sides. If we look at this side, we can see a beveled edge on each of the holes. No beveled edge here except for one line. Okay? So we want to work, we're going to be doing a double flare, we want to work on the beveled side. Now we need to figure out what diameter line we're working with. There's two very common sized brake lines that we work with, and they are 3/16 and 1/4 inch. So 99% of all the brake work we do on cars and light trucks is going to be 3/16 line or 1/4 inch. This line that we're working with right here is 3/16. So out of these 99% of brake lines that are 1/4 inch and 3/16, 80% of them are probably 3/16. That's the smallest size line. What I want to do is mount this line in the fixture, and I need to mount it at the correct height. So, in order to do that, I get my 3/16 adapter, and I'm going to set the line height equal to this bottom ledge on the adapter. So I'm just going to pull the line down until the line protrudes even with that bottom line on the button. Okay? So now once I have it there, I need to tighten down both of these wing nuts in order to secure the line in the fixture. And there's a right way to do this. I want to tighten the wing nut that is closest to my line first, and the one that's furthest away second. That gives me leverage to tighten the second line up. So first, I'm going to crank this guy down. And you're going to see that gap close all the way up. So right now, the two sides of the holding fixture are touching. This isn't going to get any tighter right here. This side is not tight yet. There's a gap right here. By tightening down this side first, it was easier with this one loose. It came closed. Now I have all this leverage from the line to the other end that's going to make this easier to tighten. It's still going to be harder to tighten this one than this side, and if you don't tighten this all the way, your flare's not going to work. So what I like to do, in order to tighten this last one up, I'll put it in a vise so you can see it. First, I'm going to use my fingers to crank this down. But eventually, I just don't have the finger strength to crank this down any further. So the kit comes with a rod, and the rod is designed to slide between this wing nut so we can get a little extra leverage and crank this all the way down. If you don't do this part right, when you start to push on the line this direction with the flaring tool, instead of flaring this end of the line, it's just going to slide the line through the fixture. This is a problem that I see with a lot of students, and I can always tell this happened because the holding fixture makes little rib marks on the line, and you can see where the original rib marks were and where the tube slid through and drug those ribs up the rest of the tube. It looks like somebody did a skid down the side of the line. So I make sure that I have both of these tight. And now I'm ready to do the first part of the flare. I need that 3/16 button that I used to set the height of the line earlier, and I'm going to push that right down inside the line. Now I take this part of the tool, and I place this on the button. We've got our tube mounted up in our fixture. We have the 3/16 button on here, and now we're going to use our tool to do the first part of the flare. And this first part, if we imagine the walls being straight like this first part is going to roll them. It's going to roll them over just a little bit. So what I'm going to do is make sure that I'm applying equal pressure on both sides of this tool. You don't want to just take this thing out here and crank it around, because it's going to tend to load the tool opposite the side that you're pushing against. So I want to be neutral, and I'm trying to drive this button down nice and straight. Once the button has bottomed out on our holding fixture, we're done. It's not going to go any further. So now I need to loosen my tool. I can remove my button, and I'm done the first part of a double flare. The tube when you look down on it, should look something like this. The opening in the center should still be pretty round. If you didn't square the line, if you press down unevenly, this is going to look more oval than it is round right here. We did the first part of our flare, and we rolled the top edge of the line over. Now I need to do the second part, where I push that edge down and get double wall thickness to make this a double flare. So all I need is my tool, no button. I'm going to push the cone directly against the line and roll that over until I have a double flare. Now the first part that we did, we watched the button contact the holding fixture, and we can't overdo it. Right? Once the button touches the holding fixture, we're done. This second part, we can go too far. If you crush the line too far, you've made the line thickness too thin, and it's not a good flare. So you can stop and look at your flare, and then go back and apply more pressure and flare it more. You can't stop and crush it too far and then bring it back. You got to start over at that point. So my suggestion is, as you do this, go slowly and look at your flare as you crush it. The same rule applies as with the button. We want to be smooth and apply pressure evenly to both sides. And when you think that you're there, or almost there, stop. Take a look at what you've done, and it may be good enough. If you're not happy with how much of a flare you have, you can always put your tool back on and go a little bit further. So this is a finished flare with our cheap tool, and it should look something like this in the holding fixture.
Remember, the student's got to leave.